What's up, everybody? Happy New Year, even though we're a few months in. This year is worse than the last.
Happy New Month.
Yeah, it's kind of, we should celebrate being alive for another month, huh? A month at a time.
Yeah, why not? Give us something to celebrate at least.
Yeah. Are you still in the snowpocalypse, or has that, leveled out?
Yesterday, it got up to almost 50 degrees. Snow has started to melt, but then I woke up this morning and we got about an inch of snow overnight.
Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah, but this coming week, I think we've got a few days in the 30s, and then we're going up into the 40s, and by next week, there's a couple days forecasted in the 60s, so...
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so spring's coming. Spring is fucking coming, but typically the way things work, we'll get a few weeks of spring, and then we'll get hit with one last bastard snowstorm sometime in late March or early April. So I'm keeping an eye out on that, but
right.
For now, things are looking to be warming up, I hope.
That's good. It's back and forth over here, too.
It's that time of year, man.
Well, tonight we're going to talk about something that I love. I find interesting for many reasons. I first came across a list of dragons from American history, and that caught my interest. When we think of dragons, or at least me, I think of Nordic dragons, Asian-style dragons and stuff like that. Do you ever think about dragons being in America when you think of dragons?
No, but I want to start.
Well, one thing I find interesting about these cases, the ones that we're going to cover anyway, it kind of led me to a question for you. At what point in time do we credit humans as not being just dumb humans lacking technology? When do you start to question that Sir Moore may have not been fighting an alligator, like the 1700s, 1800s?
No, I would say that people could distinguish between a dragon and a fucking alligator before the 1700s.
Right, exactly.
I mean, Columbus was sailing around in the late 1400s.
Right.
The Norse probably came over here a few hundred years before that.
Right. Funny enough, there's a mention from the 1400s about a Chinese emperor whose chariot type thing was carried by dragons.
Yeah, there you go. We don't have flying alligators.
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny when I hear people make those comparisons. But one thing I like to do when we cover stories like this is a way to relate to the witnesses maybe, or the testimony, maybe gauge my bullshit detector, reading stories like this, is do a little digging into what types of things were going on in that time period for humans. And, we think about Sir Moore. In his case, humans were doing things like inventing portable watches, symbolic algebra, flintlock firearms, a heliocentric model of the solar system, and there was a huge expansion in printing. So these weren't dummies. And what makes cases like this so fun to me is that even though these stories are old, once you look at the people and their progress in that time period, one, these folks definitely knew the difference between an alligator and a dragon of old lore and legend. And two, even as old as they are, a dragon is actually a very fucking strange thing to be dealing with, even at that time. I don't know if you can imagine being a printer back then, and somebody from the kingdom sending someone to you to print out 100 copies of a flyer warning travelers heading north that there's a huge, absolutely massive dragon out and about in the area. That'd be fucking terrifying, but that's happened. It's not hard to imagine with the COVID lockdown stuff. Stay inside, dragon in surrounding area, commence lockdown until further notice.
Yeah.
It's fucking scary. So,
have you ever seen the, I think it's an old woodcut, but it's a depiction of a dragon that was described in the Middle Ages. I don't remember the year. It was, I remember seeing it in a book about basically medieval dragons and sea monsters. And it was a woodcut depiction of somebody's eyewitness report of a dragon that attacked their cow. And the picture is basically just a giant rooster standing with a knocked over cow, and it's got its claws on the cow, but it's just it's a giant fucking rooster. It's so awesome.
That's weird because there's other creatures from medieval time that could be attributed to being a giant rooster. I wonder why they were calling it a dragon.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's my favorite depiction of a dragon ever.
I always laughed at the cockatrice and stuff like that until that Doctor Who episode. Yeah, instantly became terrifying. Yeah, but I love the story of Sir Moore, and there's a couple other cases we've covered to where I've gone back and looked at what the people were doing at that time, and it's like it's always amazing to see what they were accomplishing at the time, and how people just, just in today's time just credit them as seeing like an alligator or it just being bullshit altogether. Now with the turn of events with fucking aliens and stuff like that, we haven't looked at cryptids too much. What's your stance on dragons existing at one time? Do you believe that what was going on? Do you think they were straggler dinosaurs? No,
I don't think it's any of that. I honestly, I don't think that any stories of dragons are real. I'm gonna be that guy. I think that it's just folklore that kind of stuck around, like in the way that we have like John Henry or Paul Bunyan,
right?
And that's what I attribute that to. It's funny that you're bringing this up though, because I just recently watched the Ancient Aliens episode about dragons, where they're trying to say dragons are actually alien ships. Oh, yeah. No, alien ships, not even just aliens. The dragons are people misidentifying weird alien ships.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now we've had that turn of events with UAPs, we know that's not true, Giorgio. Way to kick it in, Pele.
Yeah, and of course they also had to go down the reptilian rabbit hole in that episode as well, because the reptoids are probably what all the stories about dragon hybrids and dragons taking humanoid form in mythology that are out there. They're actually reptoids. In fact, Dungeons and Dragons even sets precedents for that, where dragons are able to use magic to turn into humanoid beings. And then they mate with humanoid beings.
Right.
And have dragon hybrid babies.
Shadowrun 2. The world's like ran by 7 great dragons, and they just transform into people when they need to talk to people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. But one was, they're vulnerable as humans, and another dragon knew that and took them out. Well, maybe, let me rethink that. So you don't believe in any dragon tales being true, even though they're this is a creature that's shared all over the world, in every country, every continent has. Well,
but here's the thing about it. That's something that like Ancient Aliens likes to pull too, where it's something that's, but if you look at Asian dragons and you look at European dragons, they're very different. There's no similarity between them, other than that they're vaguely reptilian creatures. But the Asian dragons are so different from our dragons. Most of them don't even have wings. They've got long serpentine bodies. They've got whiskers and usually antlers and things like that. Meanwhile, you've got the European dragons that have bat wings and horns and big snarling teeth, and they can breathe fire. Sometimes they have 4 legs, sometimes they have 2 legs, and then you can make the distinction between dragons and wyverns, and what's the difference there, like if they're both big reptilian beasts. And then you've got the some of the Norse dragons, which don't fly at all. They're ground beasts. So I feel like dragon is a name that's stamped on them after the fact, because they're giant reptilian monsters. It's like an ancient term of kaiju.
Right.
So I think that it's when it's brought up that it's something that's seen across all cultures, that's not true. It's only true in retrospect when we name them dragons. But if you were to go back to the time that these tales were being told, they're not all calling it the same thing. Like you go to each culture, they're going to have their own word for it, their own description, their own powers associated with these things, and they're very different.
Very interesting. And your comment about the rooster dragon kind of backs that up. And funny enough, when I was doing research for this, I came across a list of, I think it was like 17 different things that they consider dragons. You know, and I think if we're talking about a giant rooster or, you know, like a lindworm that has no legs but arms and it drags itself on the floor, I think we can break away from the dragon talk then, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's just go and just for kicks call them all kaiju.
Right.
Just giant creatures. Like I want to see Godzilla fight a giant rooster.
Me too.
Like if you had a rooster the size of Godzilla, that thing would be fucking terrifying. Like just think, I don't know how much experience you've got with barnyard roosters, but barnyard roosters can get pretty fucking intense if they feel like they need to defend their territory. And they've got really big fucking talons.
Right.
So if you put one up against Godzilla, yeah, Godzilla's got the breath weapon and he'll probably scorch their feathers and stuff. But relatively sized, I think a rooster would be able to chop off some fucking arms and legs and shit, peck his eyes out.
It sure beat the shit out of Peter Griffin.
And if you could give a rooster kaiju a breath weapon, fuck out of here.
What, like it's a sonic cluck?
Yeah, a sonic cluck. There's a that just kind of echoes and Godzilla's eardrums burst. He loses his equilibrium, fucking topples over. That thing comes over and just starts goring him with its talons, ripping his face off.
Yeah.
And then he crows. And then the buildings crumble around him. It's fucking awesome. I want to see that's got to be the next MonsterVerse movie. Fuck Space Godzilla. I want giant rooster.
You know, all these little things that we say we wish we want to see and we get real descriptive about, we can make it happen with AI now. I know people hate AI, but at least you can watch Godzilla fight a chicken.
I mean, as cool as that sounds, I feel like I'm sleeping with the enemy. I can't do it. I'd rather have some awesome artist come through and be like, hey, I would like to animate your bullshit. And I would say, I would love for you to animate my bullshit, artist. And then we could have our bullshit animated.
Yeah, that would be way better.
Lovely. I would love to have a YouTube channel just called What Cast Cartoons. Oh my God.
That'd be fun.
The things that I would do, guys, the things that I would do, if only I had the talent to draw and animate and do that stuff. But I don't. I got the ideas, but I can't do anything with them other than say them here. And we can all use theater of the mind to imagine Godzilla fighting a giant rooster with a sonic boom cluck.
So let's. I'll rephrase my last question to you. So like, maybe they're not dragons, but what time period do you draw the line and just say that these people were stupid, rock-worshipping, human-sacrificing, mentally inferior dumbasses that were running away from crocodiles, screaming dragon, and then started praying to Dingalusa, goddess of the serpents, for protection? When do you think people were smart enough?
I don't think that people were ever that dumb. I think that's... I think if you have a person native to an area, they're going to be they'll be able to identify the animals in that area, and they're not going to call something a mystical creature if it's an everyday normal creature.
Okay, cool, good. Okay, so I've got 2 articles that I wanted you to read. They're actual articles from newspapers, and they're from the 1800s. So if you want to start with reading the first one.
Oh boy. All right. So if it's the 1800s, I'm already calling complete and utter bullshit.
I normally would too, but I think this. We'll talk about it after you read the story because the witnesses are pretty cool. I emailed it to you. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm like, okay, where's the story? Do go on.
I would love to read it, dickhead.
All right. So this one's from August 7th, 1885. A correspondent writing from Blue Mound, is that Illustrated?
Probably.
A correspondent writing from Blue Mound Illustrated to a Bloomington paper tells this remarkable story. James Vincent Sr., a farmer of Fletcher, was startled the other day by the unusual bleatings of his lambs, and on going to the spot he saw a huge reptile raise its head many feet above the ground. He at once hurried to Fletcher and got the assistance of friends, among whom were John N. Klingon, Mr. Klingon, W.H. Lear, A.H. Conger, and J.S. Scott, all well-known citizens of the place.
And officers of the Enterprise.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's no
What's going
no
on
Picard,
with those
though,
names?
unfortunately.
Yeah.
There is a Scotty, though. A Scotty and a Klingon. And they were all well-known citizens, so good for them. They accompanied Mr. Vincent to his farm and, mounting a fence, saw the sheep on the other side of the field running in a circuit. They remained until the sheep came around to their side, when they found they were not in the presence of the one monstrosity only, but three smaller ones, each of which, the men claim, measured from 18 to 20 feet. The three little snakes then got hold of one of the lambs and started for the monster snake. While they were struggling with the little fellow, John C. Klingon threw a fence rail at them. They then relinquished their hold and made an attack upon the men, but were beaten back and again started for the lambs. Seizing one, the little bleater was hurried... Bleater, not bleeder. The little bleater was hurried through the air to the big snake. So like it threw it, I guess. It picked it up and whee! And no more was seen of it after it reached the jaws of the devourer. At this point, the men fired several shots at the old fellow. It acted strangely and advanced no further, being struck, no doubt, by some of the bullets. It lay still for several minutes, and the small snakes ran into its mouth. It unfolded its wings, which previously had not been described, and started, but it was some time before it could get out of the field, for it was surrounded by a big hedge fence. It finally rose high enough and started away eastward, passing William Lanster's house. His sister Katie, who was in the yard, was frightened so badly that it is feared she will never recover. It then passed Mr. Zabel's house. His daughter Minnie saw it, and she has since been warned by an overruling power to stay in. Thence it passed over Cooksville. It was high when it reached the place. Doc Shatler, or was it William Shatner, and Colonel Juno Wells saw it, but they thought it was fowls flying in a row. Benai Brigham says his attention was drawn by a strange noise in the air, and looking up, it was too high to tell what it was. He gave it very little attention, thinking that it was something blown up by a storm and that the noise was made by something on the ground. When he saw it was 3 miles northeast of the farm where it was first seen. At least 20 persons saw it, and it cannot be doubted. Great excitement prevails over the strange visit. William Smith and Reverend C.D. Belleville were on the ground a few minutes afterward and saw several of the lambs still bleeding, this time actually bleeding, not bleating. The Reverend Mr. Belleville is one of the most reliable men in this county. He is a minister of the Methodist Episcopal Church at Fletcher and says there is no doubt that the men are telling the truth. He can't help but believe them, as the men were almost frightened to death. John N. Klingon fell prostrate and was carried to Mr. Vincent's house, where medical aid was summoned, and it was some time before he came to. The snake came here about 3 p.m. and stayed fully an hour and a half.
Maybe it's not a dragon, but what do you think about this case? I've actually heard of this case before many times.
Really, anything from this period of the 1800s, I immediately write off as being bullshit. So this one, I will also lump into the pile of this is bullshit.
You think they're just trying to sell papers?
Yeah. I mean, mini snakes that come out of the giant snake's mouth and grab grab cows and then wriggle back into the giant snakes. The only way that this is real is if it didn't actually fly and it was a graboid from Tremors.
No, what do you think about them giving their names? Like, people were going to receive ridicule at this time. They're pretty much everybody involved gave their goddamn name.
I mean, honestly, I would be willing to bet that the names were made up. Because so if this was in Kansas City, Maryland, was in the Kansas City Star, or Kansas City, Missouri, not Maryland, I'm sorry. And they are talking about a correspondent from another place who is writing to them, writing to another newspaper in Bloomington to tell this story. So already you're getting a report on another report. And then they're naming all these people, but I mean, at the time we know we've covered stuff from this period before, where we know that newspapers were literally making up stories to sell papers.
Right.
And it wasn't out of character for them to just create names to give it like a hometown feel. So anyone outside of the area is like, oh my God, they're naming the people right here. It's clearly real. Like, you think J.S. Scott is going to make that up? And they didn't even put the full name. So is it John Stewart Scott? Is it Jason Samuel Scott?
Right. Yeah.
Is it James Shirley Scott? Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, what a quick and easy way to basically deter and stop anybody doing any further investigation. They're going to be like, no, nobody here goes by that name, or like, yeah, there's 50 people here.
Yeah, and there's a guy named William Smith. Like, you don't think that there's 27 William Smiths within a stone's throw? Come on.
Right, it may have been made up. They did have some pretty Starfleet names there. I will say that.
Yeah, it's absolutely shenanigans. I would be willing to bet many golden doubloons on that.
Well, the story I wanted to cover, I came across a really cool list of sea monsters that were from America. And on this list, there was most of them I hadn't heard of, but they did have newspaper articles about them as well. But they were focused in the Bay Area where I'm from. Started reading about a sea monster at a place called Lake Elizabeth. From the time I was born till I was probably about 9, I swam at Lake Elizabeth every summer. I'm very familiar with Lake Elizabeth, so I was very surprised to see that there was a sea monster story there, but somewhat not surprised because, yeah, I only swam there for a few years, but I refused to go into that water after a short time. We didn't stop going there, but I refused to swim there after something happened there.
That's pretty funny. I when I was a little kid, I went swimming in Lake Champlain not knowing about Champ. And then years later, I remember watching something on the History Channel or something about lake monsters, and they started talking about Lake Champlain. I'm like, I swam in that lake. I didn't know there was a monster there.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was probably like 8, maybe 9.
Right. I mean, part of that is why I won't go into any lakes at all anymore. Or
just in case there's a lake monster.
No, why I don't. What happened?
They got Ogopogos, man.
Just what happened at Lake Elizabeth, which I'll get to. But reading into this, a man named Major Horace Bell, who was also a lawyer, a Los Angeles Ranger, and a newspaperman, wrote in his 1930 book On the Old West Coast, being further reminiscence of a ranger. He talked about Lake Elizabeth. I was super surprised when I came across this. Apparently, there had been a sea beast in Lake Elizabeth since the 1830s. It was very well known that there was a sea monster there. In his book and other reports, Major Bell talked about how it was common knowledge and sightings and even encounters with the monster were plentiful. And due to the time period that he wrote about, their accounts are rather detailed. Its description is strange, and after talking with you a little bit, maybe this fucking wasn't a sea monster. Maybe this is something completely different. It was said that you could tell the creature was about to make an appearance by two things. One, a low volcanic rumbling, and two, a mixture of smells. One being that is sewage, and the other was that of a German bakery, which
that is very specific.
very specific, and
Like not any bakery, specifically a German bakery.
yeah, can you imagine?
Okay.
Like you hear a rumble and you go, uh-oh, and then it smells like somebody shit their pants, and then I go, uh-oh.
And then you smell delightful pretzels. And you're like, oh, how lovely.
It smells like wonderful breads, and we're like, oh my God, it's coming. But this is its description. It was 30 feet long, reddish in color. It had a long snout, a crooked jaw full of jagged, maybe shark-like teeth, giant bat-like wings, long hind legs, a barbed tail, a shaggy yellow mane on its head and shoulders, emerald-like eyes that were the size of dinner plates, and a long proboscis between its eyes. That's a pretty fucking
That's
weird.
weird.
Yeah, that's a weird dragon.
Why would it have fucking sharp teeth and a proboscis?
I don't know.
What's it doing?
Maybe it's not a proboscis, if you know what I mean.
Oh boy. It's his probe.
Yeah, dragon probe.
He just wants to probe.
Oh,
He's a probing dragon.
my favorite kind.
Yeah.
But it seems like 1886 was a busy year for the Lake Elizabeth monster. On July the 4th, a prospector reported being attacked and nearly eaten by the creature, but it noticed nearby cows and decided to eat them instead. On July 14th, Nevada migrant Peter B. Simpson and his family were camped at the upper end of the lake when out of nowhere, the monster appeared, grabbed their wagon, flew 20 yards away and dropped it to the ground, destroying it and startling their cattle, which drew the attention of the beast, and it instantly pounced on an antelope that they kept and biting it clean in half. And it kind of flew away a little bit, but Peter grabbed a pistol and chased after it, and while he was chasing it, he shot at it. And he said that the bullets just bounced off its hide, which is common when it comes to people coming across these things. He said it darted high up into the air and cannonballed right into the lake and didn't come out. A few months later, one Don Felipe Rivera crossed paths with the monster, but he didn't waste time and immediately opened fire on it. Again, the bullets bounced off its skin, and he said it made a sound like a metal hitting a giant kettle. And it was even said that in Peter B. Simpson's encounter that he walked around where this all took place and he found giant scales that were reddish in color, again, big as dinner plates and felt like glass. But there's tons of other sightings of a lake monster there at the lake I used to swim at continuously as a child.
Are they all the same descriptions?
Well, the one Don Felipe Rivera said that the one he encountered was 44 feet long.
It's just weird to me how lake monsters seem to evolve over time. Like,
right.
You know, look at Loch Ness, for instance. Up until the surgeon's photo, it was thought to have been like an amphibious creature. People have reported seeing it on land. There was evidence of like trails left behind as it crossed paths and went in and out of the loch. But since the surgeon photo, it's all been basically something with a long neck and bumps on its back.
Right, only in the water.
Only in the water, yeah.
But what do you make of that description here? Like, you know, that really doesn't sound like a dragon. It sounds like one of these 12th century wood engravings of it, some type of weird beast. It doesn't even sound like a dragon from those times.
Yeah, or maybe it's... I think a lot of this stuff, Loch Ness included, and maybe even dragons, I don't know. And maybe even UFOs, but it could be our perception of time. Maybe. So I guess to preface this whole thing, we should start with the notion that time is not linear. We just perceive it that way. And if all time is existing in the same moment, like everything, it's all happening at the same time. We're just perceiving it in like a stacked pattern of moments rather than viewing all moments. It could make sense that there were times when maybe there are things that overlap. And I think that would explain the stone tape theory with repeat hauntings, the non-intelligent hauntings.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it could also explain a lot of things, a lot of weird anomalies, like cryptids, for instance, sea monsters, things like that. But also, remember we talked, this is going way back, but I mentioned a case on the show before about a guy in Texas who saw a flying stingray just flying through the sky.
Yes.
And you could explain that by him seeing an artifact from a different time that just kind of overlapping with us briefly. So it's like in its time, it's swimming in the ocean. But where this guy is right now is land. But at some other point in time where he is was under the water.
Right.
So what he's seeing in the sky is during whatever time period it's alive is literally, it's just swimming in the water. But I think that maybe a lot of these things could be that sort of situation where we're just seeing things out of sequence in time, like two time periods interacting at a weird point where only this one thing crosses over briefly. So like with these descriptions, maybe it's not even biological. Maybe it's something mechanical that was created at some point outside of the time where the witnesses are existing.
Ah.
And it just kind of pops through randomly, and they're like, "Oh shit!" And maybe there's places where the fabric is worn, or where time gets a little weird, and moments overlap, or maybe it's fairies.
Yeah, I mean, it could be as simple as that's a hell of a way to bolster your reputation, is if you go to a place that's, at the end of the fucking country you're from, or maybe even go to another country and say, like, I've killed 2 dragons. Ego's enough to bolster stories like that continuing through history.
Sure. And if you were, say, a knight or a warrior who got around, and you end up going to a place where there's a crocodile, and nobody knows what it is. You cut the head off a crocodile and bring that head back and be like, look at the head of a dragon. And like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Oh fuck. Because they've never seen it. And your average person in the Middle Ages doesn't know much outside of a few miles of their home. So you bring in a head of some exotic animal, and it's going to fucking blow their mind.
Right.
Like, imagine bringing a fucking shoebill.
Yeah. Even its skull, even its beak,
Yeah. Or even, like, you're in the middle of England, and you're able to bring back the head of a water buffalo. Like, that, nothing like that exists in fucking England.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, even in the 1900s, late 1800s, they were confusing elephant skulls as cyclops.
Right. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, there's some stories of people fighting dragons that they described as big as an elephant, or a couple of elephants. And that's not a dragon by standards to anybody, right?
No. Well, I mean, again, it could be anything. You just slap the label on it afterwards. Could be a fucking dragon. Who cares? Why not?
Yeah.
And then you've got the stories of the Rock that is said to carry away. It's supposed to be big enough that it could carry away an elephant.
Yeah.
It's just this fucking giant hawk bird thing.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned The Rock. That's one of the articles, and there's actually a really good YouTube video that the person made as well about some of these cases. That's what they focus on, is the Thunderbird sightings and stuff, and they think that those were all dragon sightings.
I think it's all myth.
Yeah, or the possibility. Maybe that's not what they think, but they do bring up that theory. Yeah, but the reason why I stopped swimming in Lake Elizabeth, and I shit you not. And I swam there for years with no problem or any fears or worries, anything like that. I grew up fishing, so being in water like that was second nature to me. But when I was in there one time, something really big hit my leg. And I was like, hell no. No way. And I had goggles on, and I looked around for a while to see if there's anything near me at all. And I fucking got the fuck out of there. And I remember telling my dad, and he's like, it was a fish. And I was like, bitch, I've been swimming here my whole life. I've never been fucking bum rushed by a fish. I've been in lakes after that, and I've never been hit by a fucking fish. But I just, when I saw the story about Lake Elizabeth, I instantly remembered that. And I was like, it's probably not the Lake Elizabeth monster. There's actually a story that comes from that ranger's book that says that, there's a lot of encounters with it. And one day it attacked some people, and they were near to the lake, and they watched it go back to the lake, and they followed it to try to kill it. And they saw it leave the lake, and it flew towards Arizona. And in his book, they say that there's a report of somebody in Arizona killing some type of flying creature, which they attribute to being the creature from Lake Elizabeth. So I don't know what was in there, but that was something that I've never experienced in a lake before or since. It made me chuckle reading that there's supposed to be a fucking monster in there since the 1800s.
Yeah, that is crazy. We should take a field trip.
Yeah. I actually talked to my mom about it, and she said there's a big water park on it now. So it'd be a fun field trip.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, there's one more article there, Mike, if you want to read and maybe see what you can attribute this sighting to. Tomfoolery, or maybe them seeing an interdimensional butt slug appear in our time and space.
All right. Well, for one, the name of this particular publication does not provide any faith at all.
When I read that, dude, I was like, have they been full of shit since then?
Yeah. This was from The Inquirer, June 27th, 1896. It was published in Cincinnati, Ohio, but it was originally reported in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch from Missouri, a town called Gorin, Missouri. The title is Dragon-like Monster Which Disturbs the Good People of a Missouri Town. For the past 4 years, numerous credible people of this vicinity have, while passing the railroad bridge over Fabius, just west of here, caught sight of a monster reptile. As far back as 4 years ago, last May, a party of duck hunters saw the strange creature sunning itself on a log and made efforts to capture it without success. They then reported it a foot in diameter and 12 to 15 feet in length. One of these men was the banker here, and all truthful men. A year later, Rodney Lease crept up to its den and watched for an opportunity to shoot it, but became so fascinated with the sight of his snake ship that he forgot to shoot it until it had crept back into the dense undergrowth. Since then, every spring someone from country or town has run across it, always with great damage to their equanimity. The reports they bring in coincide, all describe it alike: color black, hooded head, at least 15 feet in length, and as big around as a telegraph pole. Last night, as William Gilmore came along the track toward Gorin, he met it stretched out at full length on the bridge. He thought to get close to it and either kill it or at least get accurate measurements of it by counting the ties it was lying on. But as soon as his presence became known to the monster, it quickly coiled itself, and the sight so frightened Gilmore that he sprang backward down the embankment and lost no time in getting to town. The dimension he gave it are too large to report. However, his word is as good as gold, and a party is being made up in town to try and capture this nameless species of the reptile family. Taking all reports into consideration, some believe it to be an escaped boa constrictor from some show, but its head is different from any known snakes, resembling that of a dragon.
So this gave me like Creature of the Lumberwood feels.
It gives me the feel that this was a king cobra that escaped, because they mentioned the hooded head. They said it's 12 to 15 feet long. I bet it's an escaped king cobra.
Right. Yeah. This is why I wanted to include this story, because this is a perfect example of people probably seeing an exotic animal.
Yeah, 100%. There's nothing supernatural about this. This is a big snake is what it is. Maybe it's an anaconda because they said it's got a head like a dragon, but I'm thinking it was a king cobra.
Right. But see, there's the question, though, at this time period, what, 1890 something? The people who are seeing this thing and repeatedly, I think they know what a fucking snake looks like. I think they know what tons of snakes look like. And
yeah, but this whole thing, every time they mention it, they mention it as a reptile. They're not trying. I think the headline is more to catch the eyes, but they refer to it as a reptile twice and refer to it as his snake ship, which I fucking love. And then they even mention that some believe it to be an escaped boa constrictor, which is probably pretty likely, but I would guess it was more likely a python of some sort, probably a Burmese or a reticulated python maybe. If it's going to be that type of snake, maybe an anaconda.
Right.
But I think it's, they mention a hooded head, so I'm thinking it's probably a king cobra.
I would love to see, like, I wish there was like a TV interview of the reporter or investigator talking to these people, because there's probably like 9 people who were like, it was a dragon, and 4 people were like, it's a fucking snake. These people are stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you'll have the town yokel be like, I swear to God, it was a dragon, and it looked at me, and it looked into my soul when I connected eyes with it, and I saw fire between those eyes, and it made a low rumbling sound, and it made my bowels vibrate. And meanwhile, his buddy back there is like, it's a snake, and it actually coiled into a ball and was terrified of him and made no jump towards him whatsoever.
Hissed and everything.
I witnessed the whole thing.
Did normal snake stuff.
Yeah. Nothing. Just a fucking snake.
Yeah.
Calm your tits there, you local yokel.
Yeah, I mean, so you already said, but maybe not dragons, maybe something else going on. Do you give any credit to it being maybe some type of a unknown creature? Maybe these are just cryptids and not dragons?
Maybe. I still, the first one I think is complete shenanigans. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if the second one was either just a more believable story, a little less fanciful. But it is interesting that both stories are from Missouri and roughly a year apart.
Right. I wonder how many other cryptids we've covered are from Missouri. I'm old and we've been doing this a while. I don't remember, but I wonder if there was a rash of
how many snake cryptids are in Missouri.
Yeah.
That's what we need to know.
Yep. Well, guys, if you yourself have seen a dragon, or maybe you yourself are a dragon, let us know at the what.
Or if you've just seen a giant snake, let us know.
Right. A pile of clothes that looked weird.
Yeah. A spooky shadow. I'll even take things that go bump in the night. Just if you heard something go bump in the night, send us an email, and we'll get Aldo Poe on it. Stat.
Pronto.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.
not ready. But we will still save you. In your quest for self-destruction, you will send up more satellites. And we will be there, waiting to come again.